Well, now we're up to the latest hit for Bonnie Raitt, a singer who early on learned a lesson from a master. You don't always have to be sad and blue in order to sing the blues. That master is the late blues legend Mississippi Fred McDowell, a man whose fans include the Rolling Stones. He's the musician Bonnie calls her special mentor. Fred McDowell was born in 1904. He was a farmer who wrote a whole mess of blues, but he never got around to recording any of them until 1959. Then rockers like the Stones started picking up on his music. Filmmakers shot a half a dozen documentaries about him. And in 1971, Fred appeared at a blues festival in Beloit, Wisconsin, with Bonnie Raitt. After his set, the 67-year-old singer complained about feeling tired and went back to the hotel. Later, after her set, Bonnie returned to the hotel, too. She went up to her room, and as she slid the key into the door, she heard a sound she thought she recognized. It was the mournful sound of a slide guitar, and it was coming from across the hall from the room of Mississippi Fred McDowell. It was 2 a.m, and Fred sounded sad and lonely. Bonnie thought this is what the blues is all about. But she worried Fred was feeling a bit too lonely. So Bonnie bravely crossed the hall and knocked on his door, hoping to cheer him up. There was no answer. So she knocked again. Still no answer, so she twisted the doorknob. It was unlocked. Then Bonnie slowly opened the door. And her eyes opened wide, because what she saw wasn't a blues legend singing a tale of woe to himself, but a blues legend singing a tale of woe to a room full of beautiful college co-eds, listening in rapt attention. Without missing a beat, Mississippi Fred McDowell looked up at Bonnie, flashed her a big knowing grin, and kept on singing for his fans. And that's when Bonnie realized you don't have to be sad to sing the blues. These days, Bonnie's singing her own version of the blues, inspired by the many great artists who've come before. Artists like blues legend Mississippi Fred McDowell. This week, Bonnie's latest sad song is at number 12 on Casey's Top 40. Here's I Can't Make You Love Me.
Casey's biggest hits.
6 years ago this week, back in 1991, one of the biggest hits in the USA was Something to Talk About, the song that finally gave a rock veteran her first top 40 hit after 20 years of trying. This singer-songwriter put out her first album in 1971. But although she developed a loyal album and concert following, success on the pop chart eluded her for 2 decades. It wasn't until 1991, when she put out her album Luck of the Draw, that her luck finally began to change. That album gave her her first top 40 hit, a song that was one of the biggest hits in the USA 6 years ago this week. Here's the breakthrough single for Bonnie Raitt.
America's Top Hits.
9 years ago this week, back in 1992, one of the top hits in the USA was Not the Only One by a master of the blues guitar, whose musical career began with a $25 guitar she received as a Christmas present. Bonnie Raitt is one of the top blues guitarists in the world today, and probably the best female blues player anywhere. It's a great accomplishment, and it began back on Christmas Day 1957. That's when her father, Broadway musical star John Raitt, gave his 8-year-old daughter a guitar he bought for her for $25. He thought she might manage to learn a few folk songs on it. Little did he know that his daughter would go on to study with some of the best blues players in America, and that she'd turn into a blues star in her own right.
American Top 40.
Recently, some of the biggest names in music paid tribute to blues legend John Lee Hooker. John Lee Hooker died on June the 21st at the age of 83. Prior to his death, John Lee Hooker said, quote, "When I leave, I don't want to have any screaming or crying. I want people to have a party," unquote. And so, at his memorial service, 1,800 people showed up to celebrate his life. Stars like Carlos Santana and Bonnie Raitt. And it was Bonnie, his dear friend, who had the most to say at his memorial. She told the crowd, quote, "He had a God-given ability to stay open-hearted and wise. I thank God and his parents for giving us the treasure that he is." John Lee Hooker, a blues legend, gone at the age of 83. Now, on with the countdown.